Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ followers perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with KD Smooth at One Brothas Mind. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's KD Smooth coming back at you with a new report. Shalom, family. I pray you all are well. We're going to dig into this report this evening. It's breaking news out of the Washington Post. You all seen the thumbnail. The Washington Post did a report or released a report titled, "As Fatal Police Shootings Increase, More Go Unreported." Okay. And as you see on your screen, they also have a subtitle, "Fatal Police Shootings Are on the Rise Despite What's Reported in the FBI Database." So we're going to dig into this report here real quick. But before we do, family, be sure, if you appreciate our content here at One Brothas Mind, hit the like button and share this video on all your social media with all your peoples. And be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information and facts you need. Okay, we're going to dig into this report. It just dropped today, family, or maybe yesterday evening. And so we're going to dig into this a little bit and see what it reveals. For many of us, we already basically know what it reveals, but in this situation, it's basically been documented in an additional, more, say, useful way. I mean, there's a lot of people, especially people from various other communities, that just literally don't believe so-called black people when we tell them about all the deletions and attacks that we are receiving and up under from your friendly neighborhood officers. But this report's really shed significant light on what, again, us so-called black people, what we've been always living under since we were kidnapped and brought here. Okay, so let's dig in. Again, this article is titled from the Washington Post. Matter of fact, let me pull it up here. There's the title. "As Fatal Police Shootings Increase, More Go Unreported." It's a report by, you can blow this up, pause it, by an Andrew Bartran, Marcia Lette, and Charlie Haley or Healy. If I mispronounce the contributors' names, please forgive me. It was sent out or posted on December 6th at 6:30 a.m. actually. That's at the very bottom of your screen shot there. Okay, so let's dig in. It goes on to state, fewer fatal police shootings are recorded by the federal government every year, despite renewed scrutiny of police use of force and millions of dollars spent to encourage local law enforcement to report the data. Even though federal records indicate that fatal shootings by police have been declining nationwide since 2015, the Washington Post Fatal Force database shows the opposite is true. Officers have shot and deleted more people every year, reaching a record high in 2021 with 1,047 deletions. The FBI database contains only about 1/3 of the 7,000 fatal police shootings during this time, down from half when the Post first started tracking. Okay? And again, this chart is what they're showing. Real quick, this chart, the bottom light blue numbers in color indicate the fatal, or let's say they indicate the police shootings nationwide that were reported. The top blue numbers indicate what the Washington Post database tracked by just tracking the news reports nationwide, the additional shootings that did not show up in the bottom FBI numbers of police shootings reported. Okay? That's what we're discussing. So the blue is representative of all of the police shootings nationwide that were not, I repeat, were not reported in the FBI's official reported numbers. Okay? Let's move on. Fatal shootings by officers in at least 2,250 police and sheriff departments are missing from the past 7 years of federal records, according to an analysis of the database maintained by the Washington Post, which began tracking the deletions in 2015. The excluded data has created a misleading government picture of police use of force, complicating efforts at accountability. The incompleted data also obscures a racial discrepancy among those deleted by the police that is larger than the federal data suggests. So-called black people are fatally shot by police far more often than is evident in the FBI data. The Washington Post has found at more than double the rate for white people. Among the missing data, shootings by officers in 440 departments whose local governments received nearly $90 million in federal grants to track and report crime data. I'm going to read that again. Among the missing data, shootings by officers in 440 departments across the country whose local governments received nearly $90 million in federal grants to track and report their crime data, and shootings from another 700 departments required by local laws to report the deletions to state authorities. Okay? That's the amount that was missing. They're literally receiving millions of dollars to report this information, this data, these numbers, but they're not reporting most of them. Okay? In at least 34 states, laws require police to report crime data to the state, but most of the laws are vague about whether police shootings must be included, offering minimal accountability at the state or local level. The Washington Post found in California, for example, only half of the department's fatal police shootings appear in the FBI data. Boston was among the larger departments with missing data. The Washington Post documented 11 fatal shootings by its officers since 2015, but none of those are recorded in the FBI records. The Chicago Police Department reported 6 officer-involved fatal shootings, but the Washington Post logged 45. Police in Boise, Idaho, fatally shot 12 people whose deletions were not recorded in the FBI database. The article goes on to say, this shows that the data from the FBI database, has largely failed, said Rashawn Ray, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute and a University of Maryland professor, who has testified at state and federal levels about police reform. That some departments have received federal dollars while their shootings are unreported, he said, speaks to how flawed the system currently is. It's always been that way. It's like this on purpose, but I'll get to that in a moment. Not just the organizational structure of policing, but also the way that government funding operates. The FBI asked the roughly 18,000 law enforcement departments nationwide to report all homicides, including those by officers on duty, so that the information can be used for research and be made available to the public. But compliance is mandatory only for federal law enforcement. You see what they did there? Let's continue. The Washington Post found that only about 290 local departments reported all fatal police deletions to the FBI since 2015. That's 290 out of 18,000 police departments. Yeah. The decline in reporting is driven by multiple factors. In many cases, departments simply choose not to report fatal police shootings to the FBI. In others, departments are required by law to send the data to state officials who then neglect to forward that data to the FBI. In another example, in New Mexico, Farmington Police Chief Steve Hibb said he incorrectly assumed that other departments that are called in to investigate his officers' shootings would report the homicides. Farmington police fatally shot 4 people over 7 years. Not one of those shootings is listed in the FBI's public database. Oh, somebody else, they were supposed to report it, not us, right? Oh, this trust me, family, this article is full of excuses that all the different police departments and whatnot across the country use and are continuing to use. But let's continue. Criminologists say that a lack of accurate FBI data makes it difficult to know the full scope of police use of deadly force, despite renewed scrutiny that began with the shooting death of 18-year-old Michael Brown in 2014 in Ferguson, Missouri. Experts say that the FBI's flawed data conceals other patterns that could help the Justice Department identify troubled departments and lead to reforms. A high rate of police shootings relative to other departments of a similar size could be a sign that an agency's officers need additional training. Notice it didn't say investigation, charges, arrest, and convictions. Okay? Without this kind of data, it's hard to have the foresight of which agencies are going to have a problem or that already have a problem. I added that last part. Okay? In California, the town of Vallejo, population of 120,000, police have fatally deleted 6 people in the past 7 years. FBI records do not include any of those. One of the people deleted was named Mr. Willie McCoy, a 20-year-old rapper who performed under the stage name Willie Bo. In 2019, police found Mr. McCoy either asleep or unconscious in his car in the drive-through lane of a fast food restaurant, reportedly with a gun in his lap. According to a special prosecutor's report on the shooting, officers ordered Mr. McCoy, to show his hands. The report said, officers said that when McCoy awoke, they thought he was reaching for his gun. They fired 55 times into his vehicle, deleting him. Y'all remember that report? Y'all remember that story? I do. And again, well, let me just continue. The report found that 6 officers involved were legally justified in the shooting. Okay, let that sink in. He was asleep in his car, parked at a fast food restaurant. Wasn't bothering nobody. Somebody called the police on him. The police officers walk up, knock on his window, what have you. They see he's asleep. They wake him up. The police officers claim he had a gun in his lap. Without having any conversation with him, no verbal interaction whatsoever, seconds later, they unload 55 shots into his vehicle. Yeah. The story goes on. Although one was fired for handling his firearm in a way that officials said could have endangered fellow officers, not the person, the human being they deleted, but he didn't handle his firearm in a way that could have endangered fellow officers. That's what they were worried about. Mr. McCoy's family disputes that he had a gun in his lap and has filed a civil rights and wrongful death lawsuit in federal court. Mr. McCoy's death and those of 5 others are absent from the FBI public database. California law requires that fatal police deletions be reported to the state. The state attorney general's office then sends the data to the FBI. Vallejo police did not respond to requests for comments. The attorney general's office said it relies on departments to report accurately and follows up to offer support, but the law has no penalty for non-compliant departments. Okay, I'm gonna read that again. The Federal Attorney General's office, the FBI's, the Justice Department, all that, said that it relies on departments to report accurately and follows up to offer support with them, right? But the law has no penalty for non-compliant departments. The Washington Post found that 500 fatal deletions in California, nearly half of the state's total since 2015, were missing from the FBI database. The racial disparity in fatal police shootings in California is far larger than the nationwide disparity. The Washington Post has found so-called black people in the state are killed by police at nearly 4 times the rate of white people. It goes on to state, the FBI has been collecting summarized statistics from police departments since the 1930s. Stop right there. They've been collecting, or supposedly collecting, police data for 90 years. And they still, in 90 years, have been proven by the Washington Post to not be collecting accurate data from the police departments nationwide. Let that sink in. They've had 90 years to get it right. Kind of makes you think the reports and data is being jacked around on purpose, don't you think? I mean, 90 years, that's enough time to wait, right? Okay, let's move on. In the 1980s, the Bureau introduced the National Incident-Based Reporting System to collect more details, including victim demographics, and in recent years has shifted departments to this program. As an incentive, the Justice Department distributes about $285 million annually through the Justice Assistant Grant Program. State and local governments, which pass the money on to area police and sheriff departments, receive their share according to a formula that considers the amount of crime police departments report and the local populations. Okay, yeah, family, you're seeing, I'm going over this report, but pause the video and read what's on your screen. Okay? It's the verse from John chapter 8 in scripture in the Bible, verse 44. We're talking about their non-reporting of information, their mishandling of information. This is being done on purpose, y'all. It's being done on purpose. Why? Verse 44 on your screen. Because ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a deleter. This is scripture. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. This is why 90 years have gone by and they still are not reporting all of the information, all of their activities. There's no tracking system. It's just all on purpose, family. Okay? Departments must report at least 3 years of homicide and other major crime data to be eligible for funding. The data does not have to be complete for departments to receive the money. Of course not. However, missing information may result in similar or smaller grant awards. Yeah, right. On average, each year, about 1,400 local jurisdictions are allocated funding under the program. Within those, 440 departments had no fatal shootings by police reported in the past 7 years. But the Washington Post found they had shot and deleted nearly 1,300 people in that same time period. Their local governments received $86 million in that same time period. The Justice Department also offers funding to help police and sheriff's departments upgrade their computer systems to establish or enhance their participation in crime data reporting. There are no provisions in the grant for withholding funds. The Washington Post identified 6 departments, including the city of Boston's and smaller sheriff departments, whose jurisdictions received nearly $2.6 million from the program between 2015 and 2021, yet their fatal police deletions are not included in the FBI data. Y'all see what's going on here? Boston received the bulk of that funding, about $2.2 million in 2016. Since then, Boston officers have shot and deleted 10 people whose deaths are not recorded in the FBI database. I'm not reading you all of this article, family. I'm just highlighting some things in it. You're more than welcome to Google this article. I showed you at the beginning and go over the entire article. I'm just trying to keep the video short, just trying to share some highlights with you, okay? It goes on to read, some departments bulk at reporting fatal shootings by police alongside homicides by civilians because most officers' killings are ruled justified. Okay, the requirement for the data was not whether the deletion was ruled a crime or justified. It was just reported, and they know this. But this is another excuse, family, that they're using. Well, it was justified, so it's not a crime. So do we really have to report that? No. Nothing happened here. Keep moving on. Nothing to be seen. That's what they're doing. Okay. Later in the article, it reads, in Virginia is the only state that requires a state agency to report local departments' fatal police deletions to the FBI database. Still, the Washington Post found that 63 fatal police deletions by officers in 43 departments in that state, or in the state of Virginia, are missing from the FBI data. A few states have consequences for failing to report, but those repercussions are often vague. The state agencies rarely, if ever, enforce them. The Washington Post found no departments that had been penalized for non-compliance. It goes on to say more than 50 fatal shootings by Pennsylvania police departments are missing from the FBI data over 7 years. For those grieving after a deadly deletion by the police, the realization that their loved one remains uncounted by the FBI deepens the pain of their loss. One survivor of a victim says that their family member that was deleted, he wasn't just a nothing. He was a person, and they deleted him, said Michelle White. Her brother, Glenn Allen White, was fatally deleted by a sheriff's deputy in Pope County, Arkansas in 2022. Okay, family. And lastly, another survivor of a victim stated, if they don't report anything, then you won't know if they're making a habit of doing this. If they make a habit or are making a habit of doing this, something needs to be done. Well, that's pretty obvious, which is why they are purposely not reporting. And is also why the FBI, the government, the federal government, is not really doing anything about it. In 90 years, 92 to be exact, As you see on your screen, family, John 8, verse 44. It's because ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Yeah, family. So, again, for those of us so-called black people in the so-called black community, this is not breaking news. This is not new information. This is the norm. And these numbers, family, only indicate, or supposed to indicate, police shootings. This ain't even talking about the harassment, the attacks, the beatings, the other crimes that police are committing all over the United States. This is just supposed to be gathering the data from actual police shootings, and they're not even doing that. Okay? So, family, to be clear, I want you to understand on your screen what's really going on. What's always been going on, okay? If you remember from this particular movie clip, the two main characters you see, they were responsible for going out and putting in some work, right? They worked for someone. They represented someone. And in this movie clip, somebody had supposedly stolen something, and these two officers, the officer and the chief officer, they went to go collect it and enact punishment and consequences against the individuals who had stolen some property, allegedly. And in the process of doing this, y'all remember, the two officers had the final suspect in the back seat of this vehicle. And then, in the process, all of a sudden, that final suspect's head was deleted. So then those two officers then went to a white friend's home, parked the car full of evidence in this garage. And this white citizen, who initially didn't have nothing to do with it, had a choice. They could have turned them into the local law enforcement and reported it, seeking justice, or they could choose to actually help the officers, the officer and the chief officer, out and help them actually hide and try to clean up and cover up what has happened. Right? So they call the cleaner out, right? The FBI, the government, or whatever, who comes out and says, okay, we got a situation here. We're going to handle this. We're going to clean this up. And if we do a good job, none of you officers or nobody involved will get into any serious trouble. And at worst, if you do get into any trouble, it'll be very very light, very easy, slaps on the wrist. And literally, this is how the police operate and the government operates here in America. And this is how they've always operated. Always, from day one of this country. And so a lot of my white listeners here, white brothers and sisters, y'all like, well, why are you putting us in it? Well, again, Oftentimes, y'all are in a position because of y'all sheer numbers to vote and control who's in charge, who are the officers, who is the sheriff and the police chiefs, who is in control of the FBI and the agencies and all that. That's what y'all numbers do. And consistently, y'all at the very least have elected and voted for people who have continued these satanic crimes of deletions of people throughout this country. Y'all voted for them. Remember all your little satanic politicians about we're gonna be tough on crime, and y'all how you really like to hear that, and you say, "Oh, I'm gonna vote for them." This is what you're voting for. This is really what you're voting for. For it to be okay, for them to lie, commit deletions, and just cover it up, get it at worst, get slaps on the hand, just keep on moving. Just tomorrow's a new day to go out and do some more deletions and other crimes. This is the society, to my white listeners, that you have built, that you support, that you are all for. This is how we keep America great, or make America great again, right? Yeah. So hopefully y'all see what I did there with this on your screen. And y'all, most of y'all, I believe, appreciate this. Because if you need to, go back and watch this movie. Look at how things transpired. It's exactly the same way when you have an officer or a couple of officers involved in a deletion. This is what happens. They call their friends out. They call other people out. Get people to come out to help them clean it up, cover it up, hide it, falsify reports, not report the information on purpose. And then the FBI, who's supposed to be receiving the information, they don't scream about it. They don't make no big problems about not receiving accurate, truthful data and information because they're in on it. And who's in charge of the FBI? Yeah. It goes all the way up to the top. Okay? Let's move forward here. So there you have it, family. I really would like to hear what you guys think about this report that just came out. It's a bombshell report. I don't always support the reports that come out from the Washington Post, but on this one, they appear to have done a very good job. So I applaud them for this report. And again, it only confirms and proves what those of us so-called black people in this country, we've always known this. This is not news, family, to us. It's not news at all. Why? Because John 8:44, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Yeah, family. I mean, this is what has been going on, family. It's not new. I had another slide. It's not coming up for some reason. I don't know why. It got deleted. A lot of strange stuff that was happening. I was actually trying to do this report earlier today, and all of a sudden, my internet connection was real janky. Wouldn't work. Some of my subscribers, you may have seen several attempts of me trying to start the report. That's what was happening. You know how they do. Anytime you're trying to use information to really expose their lies, they go out of their way to try to stop you. But I kept working with it over time till we finally appear to have our feed back in order so we could do this report. Yeah. So, wow, family. In fact, let me try to get this other slide in here real quick, because it was really important. Let me try one more. Bear with me, family. I don't know why it didn't show up before. Let's see if we got it now. Yeah. As I said, this has always been going on. For all of my so-called black listeners and followers, just right quick, just while you're listening, pause the video and start saying the word overseer over and over again repeatedly, but each time saying it faster and faster. Overseer, 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 officer, 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 officer. That's what you're going to get to. That's not by accident. Okay? So, y'all let me know what y'all think on this report. I do want to give out a special shout out to our fellow brother in the B1 news community, Professor Black Truth. I want to give a special shout out to him today. We appreciate you, brother. If you have an opportunity, search in YouTube for Professor Black Truth's channel and check out some of his reports. Subscribe to his channel, because he has been putting in work for a long time, much longer than One Brothas Mind and Katie Smooth here. So with that said, I want to offer you this, family.
A word from the official sponsor of Black Empowerment, Power Tools. There's no telling when something's going to come up, so make sure you carry your power tools at all times. You never know when you're going to need to bring the hammer down, or when you'll have some trash that needs to be blown away, or some obstacle that requires cutting down. Don't get caught empty-handed. Keep your hammer close by. Keep that leaf blower at the ready. And always carry your steel. Power tools. Because no matter what your day job or side hustle may be, there's no excuse for not being ready to put in some work.
All right, family. Yeah, once again, salute to Professor Black Truth and his YouTube channel. Check him out. And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us, and as a part of the new Black media, B1 choices are mandatory and being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.